As we spoke about in the last video, harvesting and processing impacts are really important to understand when it comes to coffee. Why is that? Well, because it's a fruit, you want to pick the fruit when it's ripe. If you pick it before it's ripe, it's not going to be as good. If you pick it after it's too ripe, it's also going to be a little funky and it's going to be overripe. So picking the coffee when it is ideal, at its ideal ripeness level, is what our farmers and harvesters and producers want to do. Especially with Arabica coffee, that means, we're going to focus on Arabica right now, that means that the farmers have to get out there, the growers have to harvest the coffee and selectively pick it by hand. Okay, this is part of what makes the specialty in specialty coffee just a little more costly, but also more delicious, is that not all of those coffee fruit that are growing along the tree stem, the branches of the tree, not all of them are ripe at the same time. So they have to selectively harvest. They selectively pick some of this fruit. And then they leave the other fruit behind for a second or third or even fourth picking. As they selectively harvest, then typically, Arabica is growing on hillsides or mountainsides. They've got some sort of a harness and a basket strapped to them. So they'll be picking the fruit and they'll be dropping it into the basket, and then the basket gets full. They'll dump it into a larger container. They'll throw it onto the truck. At the end of the day, before we all have dinner and go and play soccer, football, then we're going to take the truck to the mill and deliver the coffee for the day. That's when the coffee will be processed. So the farmer, the local producer, they normally don't have to worry about the processing of the coffee. That could vary by nation, that could vary by the size of the farm or the co-op that they're a part of, but for simplicity's sake, after the harvester, after the producer does the work of picking the coffee cherries selectively by hand, the Arabica coffee, they will ship it off to be processed. When it's processed, it's going to go in either one or two main categories. And we can break these down further in the green coffee and other sections, especially the green coffee foundations module. So, coffee processing. Either it will be wet milled or dry milled, wet processed or natural dry processed. So what is a wet mill? What is a wet process? That's where we deliver our coffee to the wet mill and they should wash it. They'll float it through water tanks. Now, ripe fruit will fall to the bottom and unripe fruit will float to the top. So it's really easy to skim off and to clean any of the unripe fruit, those kind of things that wouldn't be as good as coffee beans. Maybe they'll be sold as commercial coffee or to some of the instant coffee makers that don't really care about quality as much. But that nice ripe coffee will be washed and then it will be transported to a soaking tank. And oftentimes the coffee will soak for 24 hours, 48 hours, depending on the country or the processing methods, to help the fruit ferment from the outside of the coffee cherry. And then as that fruit ferments, a couple of really great things are happening. So in our washed coffees, we'll often have a very clean, bright, acidic flavor and quality to the coffee. Well, that's because it's washed. And so if you really like this cleanness in your coffee, this lightness in your coffee, these floral aromas in your coffee, then washed coffee is the coffee for you. And that's where you might want to choose your coffee from the local coffee shop or the coffee roaster. Say, I really like that type of coffee. I'm going to get washed. Or if you're a coffee roaster or you're blending and you're creating an espresso, you need to understand, how are my customers using it? And should I use a washed coffee or go to the natural coffee? That natural coffee, again, same coffee. These are both Ethiopian coffees, but this coffee will be harvested and then it will be laid out after harvest onto drying beds. Those drying beds can't be too thick because the sun and the air and the wind, everything needs to be working to dry the fruit on that coffee seed, dry the cherry. And so as that coffee fruit is dried, you can imagine the difference between eating a fresh grape and a raisin, right? The raisin has this pungent, deep, sugary, caramelized sweetness, whereas the grape is still vibrant and juicy, acidic and sweet and clean. So the same thing happens with coffee. When you dry that coffee fruit onto the seed, some of those sugars, as the water is evaporating, those sugars are being imparted into the coffee seed. Well, that's pretty fun for these natural coffees because a natural processed coffee is going to have a big body. That means it's going to be sticky and syrupy in your mouth. It's going to have more sweetness, but it also might be a little funky. Just like a raisin kind of has more pungent, earthy flavors than a fresh grape does, so too the natural processed coffee will have those different qualities of the dried coffee cherry that was on it. So, washed coffee, natural coffee, two main processing methods that you should be aware of, and you should be able to describe some of the differences. The class notes go more into detail here. Now, when it comes to the coffee flavor wheel, and as we talk about some of the sensory impacts, we're going to use adjectives. And one of the reasons why I love the counterculture flavor wheel is that they provide some extra adjectives and intensifiers. Language like crisp, bright, vibrant, tart. You know, those would very much be in my Ethiopia washed Sidama coffee. They might have things like dense, deep, complex, juicy. Those would be adjectives that across the coffee industry we're going to be using to talk about those Ethiopian dried, natural processed coffees. And we'll talk about the body, right? Smooth, syrupy. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're not even in the sensory section, but green coffee and processing has so much to do with sensory. And I just wanted to tag this again. If you haven't already looked at the counterculture flavor wheel, it's worth a look, because when it comes to the green coffee, if you're growing coffee in Colombia, and man, Colombia is really diverse. That was a bad explanation or suggestion. If you're growing coffee in Mexico, we get a lot of predictable fruits and predictable chocolates from Mexico. Whereas if we grow coffee in Kenya, we get some really predictable black currant and sun-dried tomato and vibrant fruits from Kenya, right? So that kind of stuff shows up on the flavor wheel, and it also is part of the species, varieties, and processing methods in your green coffee. Furthermore, and in closing, we have some exercise. And these exercises, we're going to look at the difference between cupping an Arabica coffee versus a Robusta coffee. And so this is really a species comparison. Why is that important? Because Robusta has twice the caffeine of Arabica. Arabica has so many more floral, fragrant, citrus, and acidic and sweet qualities to it. Robusta has this body and pungency and sometimes even saltiness. And these two coffees are so very drastic and different in terms of quality and complexity and the reasons we use them. Later we'll talk about how baristas and traditional Italian espressos in Italy would use Robusta coffees and Arabica coffees and blend them to create fantastic complexity and layers of flavor and quality in their espresso. So stay tuned and check out exercise number 1 coming up next. Thanks.